And hello, car lovers. Welcome to the CNC Auto Show, and I am Aaron Clements.
I'm John Ryan.
And we would absolutely love to give you some information that will make your car, truck, or SUV safer, more dependable, and to make it last longer for less money. And, of course, we want to add less hassle, because if you had the knowledge or have the knowledge when you walk in to have your car repaired, then you will have less hassle, because it's almost like you're communicating in the same language as you're talking, and that's what's helped. So when you tune into this show, you will definitely get some of that language that we have. We want to say thank you. Say thank you.
There's some language for you.
There's some of the language. We want to say thank you to all of you that tuned in and logged in to the CNC Auto Show. And we'll take your calls at 706-863-5800. That's Saturday mornings, 8:05 to 10 Eastern. You can also watch us. Just go to ccautoshow.com. And you can watch this show live, and you can also see a lot of other neat information on that screen. You can see videos about your car's systems that you might have. You'll just learn the trouble light. There's a section there. You push one button, it'll show you what all the little lights mean of how your car communicates with you by lights. It'll tell you what those mean.
Right.
And just a lot of other stuff. Now, along with that, if you're looking for a good, dependable auto repair shop, there's also a button for that. It will say Find a Shop. And you punch on that, and you do a little search, and you'll find some of the best car repair facilities in the country. And those will be Napa Auto Care Centers.
Right.
And we have a theme today. That theme has to do with distracted driving. Now, when you make your phone calls, we take phone calls about anything to do with transportation. It don't matter if you're working on your airplane, your car, your boat, your ATV, whatever.
Yep.
We'll take that call. The distracting driving part is just what we'll put into the mix.
There you
go. So you'll have just some other things that we give information on, and we found it's a little bit better to mix the same type information in with each show.
All right.
So everyone has seen it happen. Everyone's seen a distracted driver. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say everyone's been a distracted driver.
You don't have to go out on a limb for that, Aaron.
That wouldn't be a limb to go out on?
Nah.
Yeah, but absolutely true.
Don't go out on that limb while you're driving, just so you know.
Say don't do it while you're driving. People do everything else while they're driving. And, that brings me to something that I wanted to talk about or wanted to mention.
What's that?
I was thinking about it this morning as I was coming to this show. Mm-hmm. Now, I was in my little car. It's a manual transmission. Mm-hmm. I started thinking about why I like this car with hardly any of the technology on it that I have more than I like the cars that we have that have all the technology on it.
So you right then were a distracted driver.
I was thinking, and I was thinking strong.
And then you heard somebody beep, and then you had to take off from the light.
Yeah, and I had to gather my thoughts again a little bit down the road.
Right.
But no, what I started thinking about is, and of course, I was flying airplanes at one time.
Right.
And all this ties in together.
Okay.
The reason I used to love that and the reason I love this is because when you're driving something with very little technology, it takes your mind off of everything else because you're having to concentrate.
Well, that and being a part of the transmission, you physically making the gears.
Yeah, you're saying, what gear should I put it in now? What gear should I go there now? You don't have cruise control locked in, so you have to look at the car in front of you and kind of go faster and slower. All of these things you're having to do, and while you're keeping your coffee from spilling, but you're doing these things, and everybody needs to release to take their mind off the work.
Right.
The car, and that's something I thought about. The cars now have so much technology that you're really not having to concentrate on driving as much. And so your mind is the same way as it was when you were at work.
Exactly.
You're concentrating on that, and you're never
disengaging.
Yeah, it's almost as if you're not enjoying the driving as much,
right?
Because you're doing that.
That's true.
Yeah, and
I like it.
Yeah, that grabbed me, and I thought about it. Okay, you want to let's do a tech tip quiz?
Sure.
All right, let's do I done got fired up and I done forgot where my paper is for a tech tip quiz. Okay, we do have one though, and you can win a hat, coffee mug. I answered the golf tech tip quiz golf shirt, and here it is. Bill was driving his. Speaking of technology, Bill was driving his 2017 Toyota Camry, and he was going a little too fast. He topped the hill, and blue lights come on. He pulled over and put the car in park, removed his wallet, and waited on the officer. The officer walked up to the car, looked inside, and said, "Sir, you have been weaving on the road. Why?" And he had just topped the hill. The officer didn't see him, and I will say that we had some great answers or tries on this. Someone mentioned a camera earlier down the road.
Right.
And I think they mentioned calling in on a radio. So I'll go ahead and mention those so someone won't have to mention those over. But we may have to sweeten the pot a little bit on this or something. Maybe I tell you what, we do a hat and a coffee mug.
Okay.
Both.
Sound like a good deal to me.
On the tip. All right. So if you know the answer to that, give us a call. That number is 706-863-5800. Or if you have a question about your car, truck, or SUV, if your service advisor mentioned that you may need a flush service of some kind, or your brakes are worn down and you just wonder if it's what type brake pads would be good to put on the vehicle.
Yeah.
Just any question at all that you might have. And we're going we'll go to the phones in just a second, but I want to update you on what we're doing with Brad's car.
Okay.
I hadn't told you any about this yet.
Okay.
But I'm going to tell you real quick. We are wanting very badly to sell the 1929 Ford.
Okay.
Now, those that's listened to the show before know that we were buying the 29 Ford as a project car.
That's right.
And I'm going to go ahead and go crazy here and tell you exactly what we paid for it. We got that car. It was a 29 Ford. It runs, looks decent. We paid $5,000 for the car.
Okay.
All right, now, we did some work on it. We had to do some towing and stuff like that. So we were planning to sell this thing for $9,500.
Okay.
We didn't get any phone calls. Nobody will buy that car for $9,500.
Right.
So now Brad wants a Mach 1 that he has found. He wants it really bad.
Okay.
But we have to sell the 29 to get the Mach 1.
Yep.
So we're going to Atlanta today to look at the Mach 1.
Okay.
And somebody's supposed to call next week on the thing. We've dropped down to 8,000.
Oh, man.
So maybe we'll sell the thing. Okay, let's go to the calls?
Yeah, we got about 2 minutes left.
Let's do it.
Let's see. Let's go over to Jerry.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Just a couple of questions.
Sure,
one's kind
Jerry.
of minor, but
We're ready for you.
thank you, sir. Yeah, the first one is the small question is, now that it's been out a few years, a lot of times you'll take your vehicle in and they'll say, do you want to put air back in your tire, or do you want to put, I apologize, I can't remember.
Nitrogen.
Nitrogen in tires? Yeah.
Nitrogen.
Uh-huh.
So I just wanted to know, since that's been out for a few years, your all's take on yes or no to that question, which one. And then the second one, the second question I have, and then I'll let you respond, is a 2007 Tacoma with very low miles, appears to be in great shape, been sitting around for a while. What type of fluids should I go ahead and get reflush, since it's been sitting for a while?
I tell you what, now we're asking you to hold on now because we don't want you to go anywhere. We may have some questions on there. We'll answer one question, and then when we come back from the break, we'll answer the second.
We don't have enough time. We're going to have to go on a break.
Oh, we are.
Yeah,
Hey,
Jerry, do you mind holding for us?
John Ryan
Yes, sir.
made an executive decision. He has decided that we are.
And Aaron is still talking.
Can you hold for us?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to take a real quick break. We'll be back, and we'll be talking more to Jerry. Then we'll talk to Malcolm. Lots more with the CNC Auto Show.
Slow down, Jaguar. Keep good, Thunderbird Ford. 10-mile stretch on the Indiana road when a Sky Blue Jaguar and a Thunderbird Ford. Jaguar said,
Welcome back to the CNC Auto Show. We'll give a quick tip on the distracted driving scenario, our
Right.
theme for today. And the tip is, don't text and drive.
That's a good one.
Yeah, because it's not good. You're looking down, and next thing you know, if you're driving kind of at highway speeds and you look down for about 5 seconds, you've probably covered about 300 feet
Right.
So that's 300 feet that the car's going without a driver. That's not good.
Yep.
So unless you have an autonomous car, don't text and drive.
That's right.
And then I guess you're not really driving if you're in a.
Yeah, you're just
autonomous
texting
car.
and riding.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
right, let's
You ready
go.
to go back to Jerry?
Yep. Let's go back.
Hey, Jerry, this is Aaron. Are you interested in a 1929 Ford Model A?
Make you a real good price on it. You won't have to worry about nitrogen in the tires.
Okay, you were talking about your Toyota truck, and you were asking about the benefits of nitrogen in your tires.
Yes, sir. I know. I'm sure many of us have got that question before, and I just thought, well, you know what? It's not that I don't mind doing it, but is there really a positive over air?
John Ryan, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. I just kind of voice my opinion on it. Again, it's just an opinion, but I just don't know that I've seen the benefit for it. Now, I always get these numbers wrong, but I believe we already breathe 79% nitrogen anyways, so you're only getting 20% more. And I know, like, vehicles that, you know, we've seen at our shop, you know, with nitrogen, they definitely don't permeate as fast.
Exactly.
You know, it may be better for vehicles that set up for a period of time, maybe some classic cars, those kind of things. But on your day-to-day driver, I just don't see the benefits of it. Mainly because there's some cost involved too.
Yeah, I'll say the same thing. You have some places that say we'll put nitrogen in your tires for free. And with that, yes, nitrogen does have some benefits. Whereas a regular tire loses 1.5 psi per 10 degrees drop in temperature.
Either way, yeah.
The nitrogen loses at about a half,
Right.
or less. So you have to add less air. Well, if you add an air, it's not a big deal to add a
But
little
the
bit
thing
more.
is, too, if you add air, it depletes the nitrogen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to add nitrogen back. But there are big benefits if you drive a race car or a really fast vehicle that heat
Plays a factor in, yeah.
Exactly. The nitrogen does not expand under the heat as much as regular air.
Right.
And so there's benefits there. So definitely if you're in a race car, and that's the reason you see a lot of high-speed European cars come with nitrogen. Some people say that it cuts down on corrosion in wheels, which less moisture, less corrosion. But
again,
the
it's
truth,
only 20% less.
Yeah, in our area, I don't see
we don't have that
hardly
problem,
any corrosion, so I don't see where that's a major issue. So there are benefits, and it's definitely, if someone says it gets you better gas mileage, I would say if you was to get a slide rule and move
It'd
it
be
around,
like point
you would get some
0.00000.
better gas mileage, but it's not anything huge. So I would say if you're getting it at either a very, very low price or free, get it. If you're not, then I wouldn't worry about it. We fill nitrogen. We don't actually we use it to top off systems. We don't sell these packages for it to where you can exchange it. It's just our decision. Some people do, some don't. But we do carry nitrogen to be able to refill tires as far as topping off when they come in. So now your second question.
Yes, sir, and thank you for that response. That I knew about the race vehicles, but just a common vehicle I did not know, and that helped out tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. The second question is I've got low mileage on this vehicle, and that I just bought, and just was curious about what to
flesh
how
out.
many miles is on the car on the truck, Jerry?
Yes, sir. It's 21,400.
Wow!
And,
wow!
You got a
Yeah.
new truck.
Yeah.
And you can just tell. I mean, you open a door and shut it. Everything's tight. The
Right.
steering
Oh,
wheel-
beautiful.
You can just tell.
Yeah,
So,
you got
but
a cream puff. Jerry, where did you
Yes,
find
sir.
that truck?
Actually, it was a. I hate to use a cliche, but it was an older gentleman.
Uh-huh.
His wife had passed. He was getting ready to move into a nursing home, and you know what I'm trying to say.
Wow.
And it
Right,
was just
yeah.
time for him to make some.
And you've
purchases
given it a good home.
some decisions. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I have, and I've treated it. Well, I've only had it about 3 months, but I've treated it really very well. And it's time for me to think about, okay, even though it looks and sounds great, it's just I want to get it in because it's been sitting so long, and I knew enough to get some things probably changed fluid wise, but
Yeah.
wanted your all's opinion.
Yeah, and last question is so that we can picture all this as we're giving our opinion on the fluids. What color the exterior and what color is the interior? What color is it?
We might have lost him, man.
Jerry. All right. We'll be answering the question, and then hopefully Jerry will be calling back.
All right.
He was talking about what fluids should change. Got 21,000 miles 07 truck.
21,000 07 Toyota Tacoma. The first thing that I think of, just because of it been sitting for a period of time, an ethanol treatment would probably go a long way in that.
Yes.
The other thing is, on those particular Toyotas, especially that year range now, it's more of a 50,000 to 60,000 mile thing that the torque converter actually develops a shudder. So Toyota actually, mentioned to change the fluid on that one a little bit earlier than normal. Normally they'd recommend somewhere in the 80 to 100,000 mile, but they actually said changing around 50. Now, obviously he's got a ways to go.
Yeah, he's got, and transmission fluid is a little different than a lot of other fluids.
Right.
Transmission fluid is replaced more due to the mileage than it is the amount of time.
Right.
Now, there's another fluid, on the other hand, that has to do with time and mileage, and that has more to do with the brake fluid.
That's right.
There should be a test strip. He should put a test strip in the brake fluid. If it shows up moisture content inside the brake fluid, I would recommend having the brake fluid flushed.
Which it will probably show because it's been sitting for a period of time.
With that length of time. So I would recommend that. Of course, making sure the oil's been changed.
Right.
We talked about transmission fluid. Power steering fluid is very similar to the transmission fluid. It's probably going to look like brand new,
I'm sure,
and him not have to worry about that. So really, he's not going to have a huge amount of stuff that he's going to have to worry about in reality.
That's right. I think he'll look up real good with that truck.
Yeah, and John Ryan, we
we're about to go to a break, but as soon as we come back, of course, we can go to Malcolm. We got about 40 seconds left.
Okay. It sounds good, and when we get back now, the other thing I was going to mention, and I'll mention this after the break also, I want to talk about a beautiful Trans Am that we have in the shop that a gentleman's having some work done. We're bringing it back to life.
Why don't you just trade the Ford, your Ford, for it?
I don't think he would. He loves this Trans Am, and we'll talk about that more during the next segment.
All right.
We'll also be talking to Malcolm. We'll be right back with more of the CNC Auto Show.
Just an old half-ton short bed Ford my uncle bought new in '64. Daddy got it right cause the engine was smoking, couple of burnt valves.
And welcome back to the CNC Auto Show. And I've done that before, buy a car at a good deal because the engine was smoking.
Yep.
Yeah, I've done that many times. Okay, we are talking a little bit about distracted driving, so we'll give another quick tip on that. Is you ever riding down the road and you see that person that's looking down?
Oh yeah, that frustrates me.
And you don't really know for sure. They may be adjusting their GPS a little bit, or possibly
asleep,
texting, possibly asleep, something like that. But I got a story I'll tell you about. I went into last week too. But speaking of somebody looking down. Okay, but you want to watch out for that, because if you look over and see a person looking down, and then next thing you know, they start drifting over into your lane a little bit, and you want to just back off. Sometimes I do this as a last resort, but if you have to tap your horn, do that.
I thought you were going to say pit maneuver.
Yeah, that would do it. Okay, John Ryan, are you ready to go talk to Malcolm?
Yes, I am.
Hello, Malcolm, and welcome to the CNC Auto Show, and what can we help you with today?
Good morning, guys. Yeah, I bought a Honda Santa Fe, and I bought it new in 2010. And right now it's got 89,000 miles on it.
Very nice.
But the latest problem has been, and it has seemed to stump everybody, I get a vibration when I start off in the morning, especially since it's cooled off in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
In the morning, I get a real vibration, and you only feel it in the car. You don't feel it in the steering or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then it sort of tapers off as the car warms up. But then almost constantly when I step on the accelerator, especially around, say 40 miles an hour, and I give it a little gas maybe to pass somebody,
Mm-hmm.
I feel this vibration come up through the car.
Mm-hmm.
And this is our travel car.
Mm-hmm.
And it's enough to bother me to where I won't travel in it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You guys got any clues at all?
Malcolm, how about at idle? Do you feel the vibration? Like you mentioned, say it's first thing in the morning, you crank it up, and you're just sitting there in the driveway in park. Do you feel it?
No,
Okay.
It's only under load.
So it's under load. The first thing that pops in my mind is the engine mount's getting weak. The reason I asked if it...
checked that.
They did? And what did they say? Did they seem to check
They
out
said
okay?
the engine mounts were good.
Right. And that's very possible. The engine mounts can be good. In fact, of course, they're still together. They're not broken. They're not, damaged in any way. But what a lot of times happens is the actual rubber isolation can actually collapse. Of course, we always use the analogy of a tennis shoe. You walk on it for 50,000 miles or however many steps it is.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the rubber eventually collapses and becomes a little bit more harder than normal. So engine mounts can look exactly like brand new as far as, visually. Now, there's some things that a technician can do, and they may have done this, but you can actually, simulate the load, just like you're saying, like put it up on a 4-post rack so the wheels are still, holding the vehicle's weight, and a technician can go under there with a pry bar. Some people use some other, tools to do this, but they can actually relieve some of the pressure, pick up some of the weight of the engine so that it pulls it off of that mount a little bit. And of course, you normally do this with somebody in the vehicle so they can tell you, yes, that's better, or no, that's worse. Because just what you said really kind of made me think engine mounts, because it is loaded. And then, like you said, when you go to pass somebody, that engine is trying to twist backwards to the firewall, which puts a lot of weight on just that one mount. So when you give it the gas, it, of course, most of the time downshifts and twists that engine backwards towards the firewall, and really sits on that mount. And of course, if there's any, collapsing in that mount, of course, it becomes almost a solid piece, and then it'll reverberate through the entire vehicle.
And then I'm gonna lean on one thing that's a possibility. If John Ryan is correct, there is a chance that you may be able to, while the engine is cold, put the emergency brake on, hold your foot on the brake, and give it about the same RPM of gas. In other words, go at about 1,500,
like
1,800, power brake it a little bit, see if you feel the same thing. Now, I'm going to add one other thing that I think is a possibility also. And I was trying to picture how this can apply cold, but I believe we can make it happen.
All right.
Is a CV joint. We run into a lot of CV joints that can vibrate under a load. Now, you usually feel them about 30, 35 miles an hour, slight acceleration, and it almost feel like a wobbling sensation.
Right.
Is that?
We've replaced CV joints. We've tightened up the steering linkage. I've put new tires on it.
Now you're messing me up with reality. So that's
Yeah.
You're supposed to say.
It's almost...
See,
Malcolm, like
Malcolm,
the old cars that got a drive shaft in it, and it's a little bit out of balance, and you feel that's almost.
But
the way
what
it
we
feels.
had talked about, what the call screener person had talked to you about, is that if we mention something, you're supposed to say, "Wow, that is a great idea. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
Thank you."
Not the case. Right?
You ruined it, Malcolm. All right. So it's not a CV axle.
That's right. We can rule that out. I was thinking about carbon and stuff like that, but I mean, this is still, I feel like it's more of a mechanical issue.
Last question. Last question, Malcolm. All right. Now, does it seem to do it at a certain speed, like possibly maybe 30, 35? Or does it do it even at slow speeds?
It does it still at slow speeds as well.
Okay.
Right.
I'm lost.
You just really notice it more when you accelerate it.
More, yeah.
I lean toward what John Ryan's mentioned, motor mounts, even though they can look good.
And Malcolm, that's the difficult thing about this show. Of course, we feel like it could be mounts itself, but without us doing that test on it, like we call it, we do it with the pry bar, and we have a big long pry bar that we literally pick the engine almost, high enough to relieve the mount of any weight on it, and a technician normally is in the car, above us on the rack, and they tell us, okay, it feels a lot better, and then depending on how much movement we have in that mount, of course that's kind of what determines if it's good or not.
But do try the power brake deal just a little bit, and see, we go through that also. We'll be working on a car, Malcolm, and it'll be eating our lunch, and that's technician terms
Yeah.
for tearing us up.
That means two things. It's taking too long and we don't get lunch.
Exactly. So it's tearing us up. And then we go to a school that night. And at that school, they tell you something that you get all hyped up on. You say, wow, this is going to be the problem. This is
Right.
fantastic. And then you go in the next morning and try it, and it does nothing.
Nope, made it
don't
worse.
Don't solve anything. And so but you were able to feel good for that short period of time.
Yeah, you were able to sleep at least.
Yeah.
That's
You
what
don't
we're
think
doing
it'd
for
be
you, Malcolm.
anything you don't think it'd be anything in the transmission, do you?
No, Malcolm, not really. I mean, there's always that possibility, but every single, thing that you've gave us, as far as a description, really just, again, in my opinion, leans towards a mount.
And that's the reason I was asking the part about the speed, because if you would have said, yeah, it does it more at about 30, 35 slight acceleration,
Like
I
torque
would
converter
say there's
slip
a
or something
chance
like that.
you might have a lock-in converter type issue. And a fluid change could possibly even help that tremendously. But with it doing it even slower speeds, first, second, third, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's not going to slip
It's,
at that speed.
yeah, it's very doubtful that it's going to be the transmission itself. I would be inclined to say, is this a pretty bad thing, or is it you got to
Well, like
kind
you
of
said,
feel for it?
he don't want to travel in it, so it
Well,
must be
what
pretty
I'm
bad.
wondering
Yeah, I
is
don't
that-
want to travel in it.
Yeah, and that's kind of frustrating because you do want to go ahead and get it done. And I was going to say that you may just let it get a little worse so that it can be diagnosed, because you don't want to waste any money buying something that may not help. But
Well, another opinion on it, too, though, would go a long way.
and I believe now that's a good thought, John Ryan. Have someone that's willing to put it on the rack, spend the time looking closely, lifting up the mounts, all of that. Second opinion wouldn't be a bad thing.
And sometimes, we like to have every bit of information about a vehicle. But sometimes if you drop a vehicle off and you tell them this has been replaced, they kind of develop an opinion of what it could be. So sometimes it's better just to say, I have a vibration, give them all the scenarios as far as, what it does, but maybe not go ahead and put that idea in their mind that it needs
Okay.
mounts.
Yeah.
So that's just a tip.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, when I'm assuming I'm going to get it back from where it's at, I'm going to come up and see you guys.
All right.
Well, we'd be glad to give an opinion on there.
Let you give it a look. See.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Great call,
Well,
Malcolm.
I appreciate your help.
Malcolm, we thank you for a great call. And the number to call is 706-863-5800 if you have a question about your car, truck, or SUV. We're going to be taking a break in just a second. We've been talking about distracted driving. We'll mention another real quick tip. Be careful with all those gadgets that you have in your car, because technology is supposed to make life easier in driving, but sometimes it can make it a little worse because it can divert your attention off the road. All the controls that you have on the radio and all of the other things, the GPS and all the other things, they can divert your attention. So be careful with technology. It can mess you up more than help in some cases.
That's right.
Okay, we're going to take a real quick break. When we return, we'll be going to more phone calls, and we'll be talking more about distracted driving, all that and more with the CNC Auto Show.
Well, if I had money, I'd tell you what I'd do. I'd go downtown, buy a Mercury or two. I'm crazy about a Mercury. Lord, I'm crazy about a Mercury. I'm gonna buy.
Welcome back to the CNC Auto Show, and our distracting tip has to do with recharging from a hectic day is good, but if you do it inside your car and you just kind of go out into a daze and just think about the day as you're driving along and forget about your driving part, now that can be bad. In other words, daydreamers accounted for a whopping 62% of distracted drivers.
Really?
Yeah, just daydreaming.
I would have think texting would be number one. No?
It seems like it would be, don't it?
Yeah. Especially as much as you text.
Yeah, but that's I don't do that. All right, where we going?
All right, let's go to Tommy.
Hey, Tommy, welcome to the CNC Auto Show, and what could we help you with today? Hello, Tommy.
Hello.
Yes, sir. What can we help you with?
Yes, sir. I got a 93 Ford F-150 pickup V8, and running slick as a whistle. And then all of a sudden one day, it just starts skipping. pretty bad. And whenever you'd stop, it would cut off. You'd have to hold your foot on the brake and, idle it up to keep it running at a red light.
Right.
And, but anyhow, made it home and let it sit for, a couple of days. And went to crank it, and it would crank. But as soon as I'd put it in gear, it would cut off. It would crank and put it in gear, and it would cut off. It would crank, and as long as you give it gas, it would continue to run, but you had to give it gas.
Tommy, could you rev it up pretty high when it was like that?
Yeah, you could rev it up.
Okay, but as soon as it had a load on it, it would stall on you?
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, as soon as you put a load on it, it just...
Let's see, you always let me go first. Let's see what you got. I got an idea.
All right, I'm gonna lean toward it's something that we've talked about before in these trucks many times. Is first I would recommend checking two things: TPS sensor and the map sensor.
Right.
Both of the and we've mentioned this years before. You could on years after that when they went into OBD2. You're able to hook a diagnostic connector up and see those readings.
Wasn't that nice of them?
So you would take it to a lot of shops and it'd be caught real early because when they plugged it in, it would say, yeah, this reading's out of whack.
Yeah,
that's a technical term too.
It is, yeah.
And it needs to be replaced. And so your problem was solved. Well, with those models, it doesn't have the OBD2. So
yeah, from 88 to 95 was a nightmare to diagnose.
A technician has to manually check these sensors. And, of course, that means knowing a little bit about the wiring diagrams. For instance, on that particular one, I've got a lot of those stored in memory. You got a black as a ground, the orange is 5 volts.
That's right.
Then you got a green signal wire. And
unless it's an aftermarket sensor, and then they throw that all out.
The TPS, what is it? Like
0.5,
0.5, and then it's supposed to. You can even hook a scope and do a sweep test.
Should go about 4.5,
and no glitches. If it's in that glitch, it's bad. The map sensor is supposed to have
hertz, right?
158 hertz with no vacuum. You put vacuum on it, goes down to 102.
Something like that.
But all these sensors can be tested, but I lean toward it being one of those two, and it sounds like you most likely have a sensor issue.
I'm going to go a different route.
All right, now let's see what John...
All right.
Stuck EGR, is that what you're getting ready to say?
No, that's a good idea. I'm going a different route. Of course, he said it idles. It'll rev up. It free revs and everything. But as soon as he puts it in drive, what does it do? Of course, it idles down to about 500 while, of course, the turkey distributor.
IEC,
no, I'm going to say distributor.
Oh,
remember,
distributor.
the pickup coil in those, once they see a low RPM, they lose ignition fire.
That is true.
That's kind of the thing that I would lean towards. And of course, obviously, Tommy, there's some diagnostic equipment, just like Aaron mentioned. We would do several different tests as far as pin out the sensors and see what their readings are. But one thing, even a simple thing, you could get an inline spark tester. You can get it from Napa. You can get it from just about anywhere. And it's a little, it looks almost like a plug wire with a light bulb in it. And, of course, what that shows is, of course, the ignition spark going through and to that spark plug. You could get somebody in there, you crank it up, put that inline tester in there, you watch it, and as soon as they put it in drive, see if the spark dies out. Now, from there, there's still a bunch of more tests that they would, they would check a reference, square wave signal on the pickup signal and all that. But I kind of lean that way myself.
Tommy, what you're going to need to do is decide which one you believe the most. Now, John Ron says distributor. I say map sensor or TPS. Map sensor
here's the
cheaper.
thing. Here's the thing, though. If it's a map sensor, just unplug it. See if it still does it.
Yeah.
See, that's a really pretty extensive diagnostic tool.
Yeah, but you're also eliminating a lot of it goes into a backup mode, so there's several other things that you're doing. But in short, Tommy, that car is going to need someone to diagnose it because you could put parts on it. For instance, you could put the distributor on, you could put the map sensor on, you could put TPS, and then you've done.
And it'd be a shorter neutral safety switch
than you would. Now, when you have that car diagnosed, make sure it's somebody that will look at it and spend the time, and make sure they've done those before. In other words, if you get a good late model technician, he or she may not be able
Or
to
you
necessarily.
you could say the secret word. Say, do y'all have a breakout box?
Yeah, yeah. If you say breakout box
Tommy,
and they say know what you're talking about, high probability they can do it.
Tommy, that's an older term and an older way of diagnosing. Those particular, just like Aaron mentioned, they had no data stream. So, a technician now hooks up to a laptop or a scan tool and can see, hundreds of sensors that are monitoring engine and, vehicle and all that stuff. Well,
Right.
the old way of doing that was installing this box with a whole bunch of little terminals that were labeled, and you would physically have to pin out each sensor. You would have your meter, and it was a breakout box. It kind of went in between the PCM and the car's computer or the harness, and it was definitely a different way of diagnosing them.
But that brings us to one other thing we used to run into fairly
PCMs.
often. Yeah, the
Yeah, that's
computer
true.
itself. And what's crazy is the computer is more found through process of elimination.
Yeah,
if
all the
if all
sensors
these
look
sensors
good.
read good, but it's mixing it wrong, then high probability it's a computer. The computer will tell on everybody else, but it won't tell on itself.
Yep.
And so it's
And we
you also
actually
could
have one on order for, what year is that one, Dominic? 1995, right? It'll
Yeah,
be here
95.
Monday.
93.
Well, the one we've got at the shop right now, similar problems. It is a PCM fault. So
I think we put a computer on a 93, 94
Yeah.
About a couple of weeks ago. At
and
least.
Tommy, when they have the computer in stock, that's never a good sign.
But Tommy, when we mention computer, don't get
Yeah, don't
excited.
just
They're
throw
not
one in
near. You can get them in a reman unit, and they're not
Right.
near as expensive as a modern.
But also, don't just stick one in there.
Don't just put it on because you don't want to
Right.
waste money. But if its computer's bad, it's
Well-
not anything earth shattering.
Right, I'm a truck driver. I'm not a mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, all of these possible scenarios that y'all have mentioned, none of them are really expensive, are they?
No, not necessarily. I mean, there's like the
Individually,
computer.
no.
Yeah, the computer would be the most expensive, but like Aaron said, if you go one after the other, yeah, it gets up there.
That's where people spend a lot of money. Is I've had people come in here and they'll tell me all the stuff. They'll say, "Yeah, I've replaced this sensor, that sensor." And they'll name about $800 worth of sensors.
Yeah.
And I'll
Right.
say, well, really, I would recommend having some diagnostic tests run. I'm not going to run diagnostic tests. I didn't spend $800. I'm going to put something else on it.
And then you fix the vacuum line for them.
Yeah, and then you find a vacuum line. So sometimes, of course, if you've listened to the show before, we love to tell you what's wrong.
Yep.
And if it's something we can tell you that's wrong on the radio, we are very happy to do it, and it makes us feel good when we do. But if we know you may waste money if you just start putting parts like that on, then we recommend diagnostics. And in this case, I believe I would have a good technician that's worked with those systems before.
Just
to
remember
run
that word,
tests.
the breakout box.
Yeah, breakout box. That's the term.
Break it.
Yep.
Okay, we appreciate that phone call very much, and we're closing in on time to go, and the time clock's on E, and we'll be back on the road in no time. I'm Aaron Clement for co-host John Ryan Mooney, our show producer Dominique Frito, Sandy Klein, and our technical engineer is Zach Llewellyn. We'd all like to say thank you to all you that tuned in to the CNC Auto Show. And hello, car lovers, and welcome to the CNC Auto Show, and I am Aaron Clements.
I'm John Ryan.
And we would love to give you some information about your car, truck, or SUV and ways to make it safer and more dependable and to make it last longer. We want to say thank you to each and every one of you that tuned in or logged into the show. We are here to help, and our number that we can help with, 706-863-5800. That's Saturday mornings, 8:05 to 10. Or you can also log into the CNC Auto Show. You get a lot of fantastic information there. I urge you just to go there one time, ccautoshow.com, and I got a feeling you'll find it will be a great source. If you're talking to someone and they say that your AC condenser is giving a problem,
Right.
you can go to our videos and you can click AC system. You can click on the part of the car that has to do with a video, and it will show you an animated video of how the AC system works. If
Yep.
you want a complete video of someone talking about it, it is just a fantastic website where you can get information. You can also watch the show live right there too. Another thing you can do is find a shop. Mm-hmm. There's a spot that says find a shop, and you can click on it. And you can do a search of some of the best auto repair facilities around, and that's Napa Auto Care Centers. So, John Ryan, are we about ready to crank it up?
Yeah, I am.
All right, when we crank it up, one of the things that we're talking about, along with taking those wonderful phone calls, they're number one. That's why we're here.
Right.
But we also like to add a little salt and pepper, and that salt and pepper is a theme. And the theme today is distracted driving. We've talked a lot about different things to do with distracted driving on the previous hour, and that had to do with text messaging. Don't want to do that. You want to be very careful as far as with technology. Technology can be good, but it can also be bad because it can distract you away from the main thing, and that's the driving. Daydreaming is a bad thing. There'll be a lot more, and we'll talk about a lot more. One of the things that I had intended to talk about in a previous hour had to do with a gentleman that's getting a car repaired and bringing it back. We had a gentleman that brought in a 79 Pontiac Trans Am, and this is the Bandit special look on there. We have been working on this vehicle. We did remove the engine. We've removed the transmission. We are having the engine is being built at Bo's Machine Shop. They do the work here in our area, and that's what I urge everyone in different areas that might be listening to us, wherever you're at.
Right.
Is in different shops, have a good machine shop. Have someone that you can trust, that if you take a bearing that needs to be pressed on, or an engine that you wouldn't go out and buy a reman on, that you would want built, have someone that you
cylinder
really
heads
trust.
that need to be machined and stuff like that.
And they can tell you different things. For instance, I can call at our repair machine shop, I can call Michael, and I say, Michael, have you run into any problems with these heads cracking, this type head cracking?
Right.
And he'll say, yeah, we run into a lot of them, or no, we don't hardly ever run into that. They normally just need a good resurface. So you do want to spend that time. It may be a good idea for us to possibly have a show having to do with different things that you would have done at a machine shop.
That'd be cool.
And that's for people that work on their own cars also, because you want to have a way to do that. Okay, we laid a tech tip quiz on the table during the last hour.
Didn't get an answer.
No, we didn't get an answer to that. So we'll go ahead and give that tech tip quiz again, and that is that Bill was driving his 2017 Toyota Camry a little too fast. He topped the hill, blue lights come on, he pulled over, he put the car in park, removed his wallet, and waited on the officer. When the officer walked up to the car, he looked inside and said, "Sir, you've been weaving all over the road."
Yeah.
And you, I want to know why. He didn't know whether the guy had been drinking, didn't know whether the guy was tired, but he wanted to know why. Now, we gotten several answers for that, but no one's got the correct answer. But one thing we will say is that it's something that he did see on the car that let him know that he had been weaving.
Okay.
So if someone knows the answer to our tech tip quiz, give us a call.
And what kind of car was it?
This was the 2017 Toyota Camry
that
he was weaving. All right, now the other thing that we've been talking about, we had some great questions during the show so far. Another thing that I have that I mentioned is an update on this part, and I'll mention it again. Brad, my son, he would like to get a Mustang instead of the cars that we have, and I told him that the only way that we could get the Mustang that he wants,
liquidation.
Yeah, it's actually a Mach 1, but the only way that we can get that is to sell one of the two vehicles that we have that are project-type vehicles.
Right.
One is a 55 Ford truck. The other is a 1929 Ford Model A. He said there's no way he's going to sell his 55 truck. He wants that one, so we're going to sell the Model A. Now, keep in mind, these are not like restored vehicles. These are kind of semi in progress vehicles, work in progress vehicles. So we're in the process today. We're advertising the 1929 for sale so that we can go buy the Mustang that we can restore or make better.
Well,
and
what
fix
about
up.
Model A? What you said is 29 Model A.
Yeah, it's a 1929 Model A, and we were
Well,
selling
it's coupe,
the
isn't it?
Huh?
It is a coupe.
No,
isn't
it's not a coupe.
Oh,
It's
for some
just
reason I thought
and,
it
and
was.
it runs.
Yeah.
You can go to our Facebook page, and I've shown them driving it. But the reason I mention a lot of this is I think that a lot of people that love cars, they love to sort of trade things.
it? Yeah, they do.
And I want to be very realistic to people. We don't have these big show cars or anything. These are cars that need a lot of work.
Right.
And the 29 still needs work, and they're not like these big shiny cars.
Mm-hmm.
We deal in low budgets on what we do, so that works out well. Okay, we will go to some of the phone calls, and where do you think we'll be going first?
All right, let's go over to Tony.
Interested in. I'd like to try to answer that.
Tony,
Yes, sir.
we are ready for you to answer that.
Okay. I'm thinking that the fellow was driving down the road weaving around, and the officer walked up, and the first thing he saw was a tire that was really low or soft.
Tony, we're going to have to back up just a little bit. Beep, beep, beep. All right, put him on stage.
No, just kidding.
All right, then, Tony, right after that, we have to do this. Tony. Oh, man, that is not right. Now, what made you mention tire, though? You mentioned that a tire was low or something like that?
Well, you saw that the officer walks up and notices something, and one of the things people don't pay attention to most of the time is a tire. They just get in the car and drive. So I figured, if he had a low tire and this fellow's weaving around on the road, and
Oh, okay. And that was kind of making him
aspect
weave.
of the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, Tony, that was a good try, though. That was a very good
I
try.
appreciate it.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, the number to
Thank you.
call is 706-863-5800 if you have a question about your car, truck, or SUV. And some of the things that we have been talking about was distracted driving, and what we and some of the things that I talked about earlier has to do with technology. Can be good because it can kind of take your
But it has another side to it.
mind
doesn't
off of driving, but also it can get drivers very lazy.
it? Right.
Because they'll assume the car is going to do everything for them. Sometimes it gets them to where they don't worry as much about an accident either, because they'll go much faster and can in some cases have a bad problem in driving because they think that this car has so much technology there's no way it's going to spin out.
Right.
So a lot of good things. Okay, we're going to be taking a break, and when we come back from the break, we're going to be going to Calvin. And we will be also talking more about distracted driving items, all that and more as soon as we return with the CNC Auto Show.
Round, round, get around, I get around, yeah, get around, round, round, I get around, I get around, round, round, I get around, get around, round, round, I get around.
And I get around.
Whoa.
Okay, welcome back to the CNC Auto Show. I want to mention something real quick. This is not really about distracted driving, but I thought it was kind of interesting. There was a short chase by the Iowa State Patrol, and it ended Thursday morning with an excuse from the drivers the troopers had never heard before. And what had happened is they were pulling over a vehicle, and the vehicle just took off and started going really fast. And the officer finally used, and you mentioned this earlier, but this officer used a pit maneuver to stop the driver, spun the driver out, and they finally got the driver over there and out of the vehicle. And the driver gave an excuse. You know what the excuse was?
No.
The driver told the troopers that he wanted to be chased because it was on his bucket list.
Okay.
So that is
Was his
evidently
bucket list also jail?
Yeah, I guess the jail was on his bucket list also.
Apparently so.
A very unusual fellow. Where are we going?
All right, let's go over to Calvin.
Hey, Calvin, welcome to the CNC Auto Show. And I see that you may want to answer our tech tip quiz. Is that right?
That's correct.
Ooh, hold
That's
on.
correct.
We're going to put you on stage. Calvin, you have a huge number of people in front of you. Lights are on you. You got a bead of sweat on your forehead. What is the answer to our tech tip quiz today?
Okay, the cop saw the guy swerving, and we went up there. He saw something in the car.
Yes.
But the driver noticed, knew he had been swerving because of the sensors in the 2017 vehicle. And the deputy saw that he had a cell phone in his hand.
He's warm.
With his wallet.
A cell phone. You're getting kind of warm.
Back up just a little bit.
Yeah, back up to that first part you were talking about.
About the technology in the car.
Technology in the car.
The technology in the car is when you go, like hit a yellow line or hit a white line, when you're going out of your lane, it'll give you some indications that get your butt back in line.
Oh, right. Calvin, we're being the collision avoidance. You are all over this thing, man. Yep. You are all over it. Now,
is it possible something could have come up because of that?
Yeah. What would happen if you were to go off and on, and it pull you back on the road too many times? Is there anything that might happen on that vehicle?
That vehicle.
On that vehicle, I'm thinking if it goes too bad, it's going to slow the vehicle down, would it?
No,
as far as the safety thing.
No, but it may do what to you? It may give you
a warning.
Oh, and what kind of warning would it do?
What would make you wake up a little bit?
Yeah, what do a lot of people drink in the mornings? What do a lot of people drink in the mornings?
Coffee.
All right, now
it gives you an alert,
and it would show a picture of what on the dash to let you know that you need to
insert drink.
Oh, god dang.
Oh, a picture of what would come up on the dash.
You just said it.
And it's something that people have in the morning time.
An eliminated cup of coffee.
Oh, you are brilliant, Calvin.
He did it all by himself.
You are a wild man. Yes, you are the winner of the Tech Tip Quiz. What happens on that 2017 is of course the lane departure. It'll actually kind of ease you back into the lane.
Yeah,
it'll give you a little steering assist, very gently nudge
just
back in the right direction. But also, if it does it a certain number of times, I don't know exactly how many times.
Well, you did test it out too. You said.
Yeah, I tested it out.
Just didn't keep count.
But a cup of coffee comes up on the dash and it says take a break, and of course your car is actually telling you that you need to pull over and take a break. Now, when the officer pulled that gentleman over, he was standing there looking at the signal on the man's dash of a cup of coffee that said take a break.
That'd be darn.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, and Calvin, you figured that out.
That's right.
That's awesome.
I wish people would have gave me the answers like that through school.
You're a wild man. My teacher used to have to do that to me all the time. I was used to it. She said, Aaron. Now, just think about it. Think about it. All right, fantastic. Calvin, if you stay on the line, they will get all of your information. And then you will go by and you'll have they'll pull a little piece of your hair out and check it and all this other stuff to make sure it's really you. And you will receive the Tech Tip Quiz prize package. Congratulations.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Calvin. Calvin's a wild man.
Y'all have a good day.
All right, where are we going?
All right, next is Kelvin.
Hello, Kelvin. Welcome to the CNC Auto Show. I see that you have a Honda with a transmission issue. What's it doing?
Well, it's not actually transmission is doing fine, but with the when you it's got the that sport shifter,
Yeah, the tap shifter, like plus and minus.
Yeah, this is a 99 Honda Prelude. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right.
And when it first started, I mean, it never had any shifting problems, but what it would do with the green, when it was in fully automatic, the green light, your drive light, would start blinking.
Okay, gotcha.
And but I mean, shifted fine, and I mean, you could put it in the manual mode, with the bump shifter and all that, and it does everything fine. Now the speedometer has gone out. It won't work.
Okay.
But it still is fine. But I mean, if you get on it while it's in automatic mode, in automatic, and get on it, it'll go all the way to when it hits the rev limiter.
Right.
And but then if you stay in it just a little bit, I mean, I don't like to stay in the rev limiter mode, but it will shift. But it never did that before. I mean, it would always shift.
Okay.
In automatic mode.
Kelvin,
But,
I feel like I have some definite good pointers and maybe even the answer for you, but we're going to be taking a quick break. Would you mind holding through the break?
Sure.
All right.
Okay, we are going to take a real quick break, and as soon as we return, we are going straight back to Kelvin, and we are going to answer some questions concerning his Honda Prelude about the shifting of the transmission. We'll also, a little later in the show, talk a little bit more about distracted driving. Plus, we'll be looking for your questions, so give us a call. And we'll be back with the CNC Auto Show.
Have you heard the story of the hot rod race when the Fords and Lincolns was setting the pace? That story is true.
Welcome back to the CNC Auto Show.
It sounds. I think you have a bid on your my leg.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
We were talking to Kelvin, and Kelvin has a transmission issue with his 99 Prelude.
That's right.
John Ryan had some ideas on it.
Okay, Kelvin, you're back on the air.
Let him know, mention what it was doing first a little bit, just
sure.
kind of give him an overview.
Kelvin, you mentioned that the transmission didn't seem to have any real issues as far as drivability, but you noticed that the D light was flashing, and then when you give it, gas, like you're going to pass somebody, it stays up in the rev limiter a little bit longer than you like, right?
Well, I mean, if regular driving and everything, it's just fine and everything. I mean, but if you get on it,
Yeah.
and it hits the VTEC,
Right.
and you get up around 7,000 RPMs, then I mean, it won't shift then.
Right.
I mean, the only time it did it when I had it in manual, if I didn't,
And you could
bump it
manually
up.
shift it, yeah. So I'll
And-
tell you about the light. Honda didn't, a lot of vehicles have a separate computer for the transmission and a separate computer for the car's engine, of course. One being the PCM, powertrain control module, one being a TCM, transmission control module. Honda still had one unit that did both. So instead of illuminating the check engine light to tell the driver that it had a problem in the transmission, Honda's way of doing that was to blink the light for D, the green little box around it. It would blink, and what that means is it's missing one of the signals. And when you told me about the speedometer not working, that also tells me another thing, that most likely the vehicle's speed, the actual input to the computer telling the car's computer how fast it's going, is not being reported to the computer. Because
So it don't really know what gear it's in.
Exactly, it's just confused, and that's why when you give it a lot of throttle, it doesn't know how fast you're going, so it's just going to stay up in that gear in the rev limiter. And then, like you said, you can manually do it. That's because you become the mechanical shifting, link to the transmission. So what would typically be done is, of course, the scan tool hooked up to that vehicle, pulled the trouble code out. It'll probably be like an output speed sensor code or something like that. And then, test perform for that. Of course, they check the sensor, they check the wiring, make sure the signal's going all the way back to the PCM. But just knowing that transmission, those speed sensors are pretty bad about being faulty. Two things: the connector actually just gets brittle and makes a very bad connection on the transmission there. The only other, most common reason why that D light would flash like that is sometimes the overdrive solenoid will go bad. But again, normally you would complain that it's not, it's staying in the RPM too high, too long, at 60, 70 miles an hour. But then when you told me about the speedometer, that's I'm thinking the output speed.
Where's that sensor at?
It's located on the transmission itself. On the Preludes, I'm not 100% sure. It is a 2-wire sensor. The rest of them are, of course, the solenoids. But it's really not that bad to get to from what I remember. I want to say it's on the front, very close to the radiator side. Will actually be the condenser side of the, the fan for the cooling, for the AC system.
Right. So
So I guess you have really kind of a good problem. It's most likely nothing
Yeah, those
internal.
are not terrible.
So I don't know, but I mean, I'm somewhat handy, but
Right. Well, the most important thing is, of course, checking to see if that's what code's in there because, no doubt, again, that's just a very common thing that goes bad on that particular transmission. But you definitely want to, have it scanned and make sure we're going in the right area because, again, it could be a shift solenoid, but you said it shifts pretty good, so.
oh yeah, it's just fine and everything. I mean, it drives fine and everything, but I mean, when that drive light
Right.
started blinking, it was about the next day, then the speedometer
Speedometer
went out.
dropped out, right. Yeah, and that's where it gets its reference, of course, is the speed sensor in the transmission.
All right, is that a huge diagnostic bill?
No, most shops, in any area, it would be under their regular diagnostic rate. Some of them range from 95 to 110.
All righty. And that sensor you're talking about, is it very expensive?
The sensors aren't too bad. I want to say under $50, and then of course plus labor, put it in.
All right.
Well, we hope that helps.
Yeah, it may not be as bad as you think, Kelvin.
Yeah, I hope so.
All right. Good luck with
Thanks,
that.
sir.
Appreciate the
hope
call.
it goes well. Okay, the number to
Thank you.
call, 706-863-5800 if you have a question about your car, truck, or SUV. That's 8:05 to 10 on Saturday mornings. Don't hesitate to give us a call if someone has told you needed something, you just want to run it past somebody. We're here to do that. Now, I want to mention 2 or 3 things real quick. One is we got our high mileage contest, and actually what we're doing is if you just take a picture of you standing next to your car and send it in to the CNC Auto Show, and you can post it directly to the Facebook page,
Right.
CNC Auto Show Facebook page, and you will be in the running to win a cooler. And just a few short words about how your car
Racked up that many
got the
miles.
miles you have and different things that you do with the car. Main thing we want to see is the picture of you with your car. So that'd be kind of neat. Now, also, I thought this was kind of, I don't know if this is neat or not. It's something that they're doing now that is can be a good idea. The police in Lucas County, Ohio, they were able to safely track a suspect's car after a deputy shot the GPS-enabled dart into the car.
Oh, wow.
So they're hoping that will cut down on a lot of the car chases. Let's say that if they see someone driving erratically and they get behind the car and they're scared the car is going to cause a lot of other accidents, and instead of pursuing the car, this
Device,
police
I guess,
officer
yeah.
had it built onto the front of his vehicle there where he could fire this dart and it would hit the other car and stick to it.
Okay.
And then they let the car go on its merry way, and then all of a sudden the guy looks behind him and sees it, or either looks ahead of him
Right.
and sees that he's just about to run over some stop strips, which will flatten all 4 tires. So these are being used, and I think it's a great way to cut down on chases.
That's a great way, I think, for sure. But let's be real. What's the first thing they do? They get out of the car and they run.
Well,
So
that's true.
now you got
Yeah.
the vehicle, but you don't have the guy.
Of course, doing it that way, they can stop the car with stop sticks, and they're already around it where they set up the deal at. Or the person thinks that he or she got away,
Yeah.
and so the police pull up to the house and say, they
So
have you.
somehow they need to make that dart to where it can energize the BCM to lock all the doors permanently.
Well, of course, there's ways to do that, but I don't know if I think that infringes on the liberties type laws that way a little bit. So they've been real careful with that.
But we're talking about the liberties of criminals. I say just shoot them with the GPS dart.
There you go.
Follow
That'll do
them
it.
around.
I think that would work just fine.
Yeah, I think that's true. That's very true. They could stick one in the little North Korean guy and different story.
Really?
Okay, now we're talking about distracted driving also, And it's difficult to resist a temptation to look at an accident on the other side of the road. And that's what happens many times. You'll have an accident on one side of the interstate, and then all of a sudden you have an accident on
because everybody's stopping
on the other side because so many people are not looking at where they're going, and they run into back of somebody or stop and other cars hit them. And so try to resist that temptation to look and see what's going on the other side, because it can really get you into a lot of problems doing that. And that has to do with the distracting driving type stuff. All right, now another piece of news. Dyson, the maker of vacuum cleaners, and they have those quiet little fans inside there, they intend to build full electric cars by the year 2020.
Oh, wow.
Which I thought was a little unusual. I thought it was worth mentioning anyway.
Yeah.
So
kind of neat they're diving into vehicles.
Yep, they will be driving, and a lot of other manufacturers, I feel like, will. You got to figure a lot of the golf carts that you see now, they are what you see, the Easy Go golf carts and the Club Car golf carts. A lot of those have reached the stage of some of them actually being vehicles.
Right. Yeah.
Road safe
LSV,
vehicles.
low speed vehicles.
So of course they have been in the electric car mode for
forever,
many years.
Yeah.
And so they would have a lot of technology that they can use toward helping to make other cars. So a lot of neat things going on in the electric car world. Okay, if we'll be taking a break shortly, but if you have a question about your car, truck, or SUV, don't hesitate to give us a call. That number is 706-863-5800, and we will be glad to ask your question. Now, also, if you want to post a question online, go to ccautoshow.com, ask the question that way, and we'll be back with more of the CNC Auto Show just after the messages. And welcome back to the CNC Auto Show. And I have to mention this. We have some unusual conversations during the breaks each time, and we have a lot of fun here on Saturday mornings. But one of the things that was said, I was mentioning that Dyson was making a vacuum cleaner. I mean, Dyson that makes vacuum cleaners was getting into the car market, making electric cars, and they plan to do that by the year 2020. Now, Dominic, what was that you said about the cars?
I said they're probably going to suck.
It's going to suck for all the other auto manufacturers.
So that's the kind of deals that we come up with. Some very unusual bad jokes that we have.
Yep.
We normally only say those during breaks, though. So that's a little hint of what goes on in there. Okay. We also are talking about distracted driving. Now we'll get a little serious here. The serious part is, one of the goals of the CNC Auto Show is not only to give information about their car, truck, or SUV that'll make it safer, more dependable, and make it last longer. We also want people themselves to be safer. So if we can give tips about being safe, we like to do that.
Then the people last longer.
Yeah, and we mentioned before that there's a lot of cars now have like 40 or 50 modules all around the vehicle. But the one that is just in front of the headrest on the left-hand side, front seat, is the most important one on the whole vehicle.
Right.
Yeah, because that's the one that makes the decisions. It's a little ways behind the steering wheel.
Yeah.
And that module is important. And what happens if that module gets tired, it starts blanking out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's real easy to be riding along the road, and then next thing you know, you have a situation where you wake up and realize that the mileage sign that you looked at previously is that you remember previously is about one or two different than what you're looking at now. So if you feel drowsy when you're driving, go ahead and pull on over to the side of the road. Now, of course, you can try the simple things first, rolling down the window, sticking your head out the window, and letting your tongue hang out like a dog, something like that.
That must work for you.
Yeah, but
does that work for you?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. That and of course coffee. But you want to do whatever you need to do to stay awake and be safe, and sometimes that means just needing to pull over. Know when it's time to pull over to the side of the road. and maybe a welcome center or a place and just walk around a little bit and have a cup of coffee or whatever you need to do. But be safe. If you get drowsy, do what you need to do to wake up. Okay, where are we going?
Let's go over to Robert, Dan.
Hey, Robert, welcome to the CNC Auto Show, and what can we help you with?
Yeah, am I on?
You are on, and we are ready for you.
So I hope you guys are having a good Saturday.
Absolutely, we are, and I hope you're having a real good one, too.
Okay, I need your professional opinion. I've got a 2013 Toyota 4Runner, and the front brakes need to be serviced. The pads are getting down to where they need to be replaced. And I guess my question is, I don't have any surging or pulsing on the car, and the rotors are in good shape. You know, this normal wear, I guess there's no grooving or pitting or anything like that. And I guess my question is, if I replace the brake pads, is it necessary or recommended to turn the rotors, or could I get by with just replacing the pads?
Robert, that's a really good question because there's a lot of a lot of people steer one way, a lot of people steer the other way. We tend to definitely recommend resurfacing the rotors for many reasons, but the most important is the actual surface area that brake pad is going to contact. You cannot see it, well, I say you can't see it. Even if they're in really good shape, you may not see the minor imperfections in a rotor. Just like a record, of course, it cuts little tiny grooves in there, and that the brake pads that are now worn out, of course, kind of conform to those little grooves and the little minor scratches in the rotor, just from the normal stopping. What happens is you can put those brand new brake pads on there. They stop great, do fine for a period of time, but over an extended period of time, the brake pads can actually now follow those old grooves. Because of the old pads that, of course, wore them that way. And the biggest concern that you can get, nothing necessarily safety-wise or anything like that, but it's kind of more of a nuisance, such as like noise, vibrations, and most likely a squeal. Of course, that's what a squeal is a vibration, making that noise. It's just all in all a better brake job. Your pads will last longer if you do resurface the rotors while replacing the pads, because they have a nice, true, smooth surface to, basically conform to and kind of find their own grooves, and make, as far as the stopping surface on the rotor. So we definitely advise it, but there's a lot more to it. Obviously, we wash the rotors too, so that there's no machining dust on there. Lubricate all the moving parts. On a Toyota, of course, it has the two little slide pins. There's a piece of hardware that normally comes with the pads that we use, which is the ADOs from Napa. They call it an abundant kit. It comes with all the little clips, the hardware, sometimes rubber boots if it has slide pins. They're just a really good pad set to use. But
Robert, one thing that you want to do before you have it resurfaced, though, is have it mic'd and make sure that it's not at or below the discard level. Now, that is, every now and then we might make a decision. Let's say we check one and the person says, well, they're not vibrating, they're not making noise, and they say, well, I really don't want to have to get new rotors right now. If they're already near the discard level, then a lot of times we say that you probably would be better off taking the chance on it making the noise and the brake's not lasting long, because you don't want to cut it below the discard level that you have. But once that's tested with the discard level, and then I agree with John Ryan, we normally always like to resurface. And of course, if they're at the discard level, brake rotors are not near the price that they used to be either.
That's right.
It's not uncommon at all to replace brake rotors and pads together. A lot
of the vehicles, I would say probably 90%, that Napa has a kit that's, of course, brake pads and rotors, as assembly. So, and then the only other thing I can mention that's overlooked a lot on doing a front brake job, rear brake job, is actual wheel torque. A lot of times people just tighten the lug nuts as tight as they can go. And on your particular vehicle has a hub bearing assembly. So it has a flange. Of course, the studs go through it. And if you over torque those, it can deflect the rotor and cause a pulsation. So make sure you torque the wheels also.
Yeah, using little torque sticks are important.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I always do. If I ever take them off, I have a torque
right.
wrench.
And Robert, that's probably the reason why you don't have pulsation now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I kind of thought that's what you guys were going to say, but I thought, well, I better check and just see. So
absolutely.
I appreciate
great question. Yeah.
Excellent answer.
All
Okay.
right. Thank you.
Take care.
All right, and thank you very much. And the number to call, 706-863-5800. We are winding down another CNC Auto Show. We still got some other tips that we can mention, and we still got time for another phone call, 706-863-5800. And one of the things that you want to do is in driving is always remember, if you're doing anything else, whether you're talking, sometimes you may talk on the phone while you're driving, but consider a hands-free headset.
Yeah.
I do that.
Like the one that's permanently mounted on there.
Yeah, I keep one most of the time, and I like them a great deal because I can make a phone call while I'm driving down the road, and I'm able to talk and not take my eyes off the road, and I'm not holding my hand up to my ear.
Yep.
And they make them very much. I like the LG with actually I like the wireless type earbuds now, which is what I plan to get as soon as this one finishes wearing out that I have now. So these are always good. That way you can keep your eyes on the road and be able to do different things. Cell phone use, really only use it for emergency type situations when you're driving.
Yeah.
You'll have a lot better conversation as you're going. If you want to, as you're driving, it's a good idea to put loose possessions in places where they won't roll on the floor. That way you won't resist. You can resist.
Don't put
the
a
temptation.
chainsaw in the front seat, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Okay, we're all out of time. The time clock's on E. We need to pull over for now, but we'll be back on the road in no time. I'm Aaron Clements with co-host John Ryan Mooney, and we would like to, and our show producers are Dominic Frito and Sandy Klein, technical engineer Zach Llewellyn. Thank you all for tuning in to the CNC Auto Show.